Well, hello and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 147. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Ged Smythe.
And I'm Gray Williams.
The disembodied voice.
Yeah.
But at least you're here. We've missed you, Gray. Welcome back.
Thank you.
We are missing this week, yet again, the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi, who is near the end of a very special project, and hopefully she'll be working less than 60 to 80 hours a week. Although Ged might go, no, that's all, based on his history for the last year. Will Silver, our esteemed compatriot, has taken a deserved week off and doing a little sightseeing, maybe at Galaxy's Edge, somewhere like that.
Come on.
So we'll get the rundown from him next week. Not to dox him. Go rob his house, folks. Yeah. So... but if you want to find out about the rest of the Momentous team, feel free to come and check us out at momentus.tv. Let's start with a little bit of a follow-up, shall we? We've been tracking this wondrous yellow handheld device with a crank for the last couple of years, and Gray was fortunate enough to get his hands on one during the pre-order period, the Playdate. And you've not been able to get a Playdate without having to wait for months and months. And now you can buy one online, apparently, without having to wait for months and months anymore. They have caught up with all the back orders, and they're continuing to release new sets of games with their seasons a few times a year. Console's $200. Now, Gray, one of the things that has been a recurring theme for us here on Momentous Live is our excitement over cool new gadgets. And what is the staying power of said gadgets? Because I think most of us have drawers full of things that were cool for a while, and then they didn't really keep our attention for that much longer. But the Playdate, with its seasonal game releases, maybe has a way to counteract that. What is your current relationship with your Playdate?
So my current relationship with the Playdate is actually less about playing games and more about writing them. There are two toolkits that you can use with the Playdate, which the games are fun. They're interesting, they're neat. But I've actually found that I'm writing sort of a text adventure. It's a game for me. It's not a game for anybody else. But I wanted to go through this exercise with Lua and a few other tools to see if I could kind of wrap my head around narrative story design. This is a delightful little tool for that kind of story development. The crank is weird. The crank is strange. I've used it for a couple of things to basically advance the story or other things. It's weird. I don't really have my head wrapped around what I would want to do with this if I was designing an actual game. There are plenty of great examples. It's weird, and I love it, and I think it's great. I had a bit of a period where I wasn't playing the Playdate, and I was like, this is a $200 paperweight. But then actually going back to those seasonal games, I'm like, these are all incredibly different, incredibly original, not found on any other platform, in a lot of cases short and a ton of fun. So I'd actually say right now, go buy a Playdate. I feel confident saying that if you like handheld games, this thing is fun.
And part of them catching up with the back orders is now they're making it available to people in about a dozen other countries, including Hungary, Greece, New Zealand, South Korea, and Malaysia. And it's great for the Malaysian folks since the Playdate is actually manufactured in Malaysia. Now, Ged, can you think of any cool little gadgets that you've bought in the past that you were super hyped about at the time, and maybe they ended up in your drawer because they didn't have the staying power as maybe something like the Playdate does?
Yeah, for sure. And actually, just before I toss my 2 cents on this, as probably the person on this who plays the least amount of games, there's something, Gray, that you brought up that actually kind of stopped me in my tracks, because never in a million years would I ever consider spending $200 on this. Gaming is a part of my life that is very small. It doesn't happen very often. There's 3 things I play on my PS5. But you mentioned something super interesting, and that was that they were short games. As someone who's not a big gamer, I am not willing to invest 30, 40, 50, 100 hours that it takes to really kind of play and enjoy these games. I mean, sometimes I feel bad because, Gray, you've invited me to play Destiny for years, and it's not that I don't want to. but it's just not a priority set that I have in my life that I'm going to devote that much time to. But having half an hour to jump in and run through a game is something that actually I find super, super appealing. So when I first went through this article, I was like, meh.
Was that the exact sound?
Yes, that was the exact sound. But looking at the world that I'm going to enter into for work, like being able to tune out for half an hour and play a simple A to B game would actually be kind of awesome.
Well, and that's actually the key word there. The sense of play. Fun, right? It's not a mission. It's in some cases, like you can go through and play through a story in half an hour. But it's a sense of play that I think a lot of the more modern consoles, or more modern styled consoles, don't have as much. Like this is like Game & Watch. It's like the old Tiger handhelds of the 80s. It's fun for fun's sake.
I still have my Donkey Kong Game & Watch downstairs somewhere. Yeah, and Ged, you may actually play more games than I do. There are only 2 games that I currently play, and they're both over 10 years old. And one of them, one of them is Monsters, and that one's pushing like 17 years old, and that's on the PS3. And there's a PS4 version which I play on the PS5, and another one is Plants vs Zombies, which Stephanie and I play head to head once in a while, and it's just when you got other stuff going on. I mean, but to your point, Gray, that is something that a lot of games nowadays, because they're so vast and amazing, but and a lot of them are mission oriented, or some of them are open world, but some of them can feel like work in a sense, where it's like you've got to do things to level up and get credits or coins or this or that, and or maybe you're part of a party and you've got like a social obligation to other people if you're going to go on raids and all that kind of stuff. So something that's supposed to be recreation can end up feeling more like a commitment. And so I totally get what you're saying. So having a little device like this, you can just pick up and play for 20 minutes, half an hour, like Ged says, and then put it down and not feel any guilt about that.
You didn't let your entire squad down in the process. Like, I gotta go eat dinner. No, you don't. Power through. I'm like, but I gotta eat.
Sleep is for the weak.
Yeah, sleep when you're dead. Like, no, it's Tuesday. I gotta work tomorrow. Yeah,
I gotta empty my diaper. Okay,
literally, jobs are for slobs.
All right. Speaking of other devices that we hope don't end up in desk drawers nowadays, not to belabor this point, but the last couple of weeks we've been talking a fair bit about the Apple Vision Pro and some of the reaction from the various generations of reviews that have been coming out. First from the people who had review units from Apple, and then from other folks who were actually buying them and getting them in their hands this way. And we've just discussed at length over the last couple of weeks some of the tenor of those reviews, which tend to be, wow, this thing is amazing. Wow, it's a 1.0 product and it needs work in this area, this area, and this area. And things like, I was a skeptic, but then when I actually tried it for a while, it's like, oh, this could actually be a big deal and could represent a step change in how we interact with computers. This is not the end game, having this big thing on, like bigger than ski goggles on our face. Obviously, things are going to miniaturize over time, but people are starting to get what Apple is throwing down now. And just a couple of quick notes here, and I want to get your guys' brief takes on this. There's one article from The Verge saying that in light of the fact that there's only about 500 native apps currently for the Apple Vision Pro, that similar to when the original iPhone came out in 2007, the killer app for the Vision Pro at this point is Safari, is the web browser. So the more cool things you can do with the web browser, the better it's going to be for the Apple Vision Pro. And it's incumbent on Apple to make sure that web browser is easily usable in the Apple Vision Pro interface. And there's affordances for UI elements and whatnot, so that it's easy, to tap on things. Touch targets are large enough so you can, because you're doing everything with your eyes or your head, and you're clicking with your fingers. So that's one thing. Just like how the iPhone opened up the web to mobile users in a significant way, even though it was only on 2G originally, and then the 3G version came out, so it was a bit faster, but that coincided with the launch of the App Store, and a lot of folks kind of forgot about web apps when that happened. Also, Apple Vision Pro has access to potentially millions of iPad apps too, which helps jumpstart things. And then there's another article, this one from ZDNet, talking about this fellow who had a chance to review the Vision Pro, and he's tried basically all of the other XR headsets, so extended reality, so that can encompass AR, augmented reality, VR, virtual reality. So you're either fully enclosed in the virtual world, or you have you have overlays in the real world, or you're somewhere in between. And his take at the end of this article was really, instead of spending upwards of $4,000 US, especially if you're doing any accessories or any storage upgrades for an Apple Vision Pro, just spend $500 on the Meta Quest 3. So those are a couple of different takes on the reality of the Vision Pro right now. And then there's another article from Business Insider talking about how, if this represents the beginning of perhaps mass adoption for XR, MR, like mixed reality, VR, all that kind of stuff, it's asking about what are the effects this is going to have on us neurologically as we are using our eyes. It's now our eyes aren't just taking in information, we're using them to control things. How is that going to affect our brains? Also, the focal length, which I think is about 4.5 feet. There's we have a generation of our cohort. Most of us have some sort of corrected lenses or another, because most of us grew up on computers. Others, previous generations, if they were bookworms, maybe they had the same issues, but not nearly as many people had corrective lenses, a couple of generations ago. And, our irises are muscles. And when our muscles are used to focusing on things close to us, they get used to that. And that's why it gets harder to focus on other things. So is this just exacerbating the problem? So Greg, I'm going to start with you as someone who has dabbled with the different kinds of reality, XR, MR, AR, VR, etc. As an Oculus Quest user / Meta Quest user. What's your take on these? Cherry pick from any of these three things, or what you've seen on the zeitgeist about the Apple Vision Pro so far. Again, we're going to keep this tight, so we're not beating this horse to death, because there's going to be lots, especially when WWDC comes around in June with probably Vision OS 2.0. But any thoughts to share on this stuff or Apple Vision Pro in general?
For sure. So I've had a chance to use Apple Vision Pro as part of the demonstration program that they did, because I was working on an app development piece.
Cool.
It is not the Meta Quest. The Meta Quest is not the Apple Vision Pro. Spatial computing is not VR, and VR is not spatial computing. These are two very different things. I feel like I'm using a computer when I'm using Apple Vision Pro. I feel like I'm playing a game when I'm in VR. They're both great things. Like, there's nothing wrong with either one of these. I can tell you this much, though. The possibilities that come along with spatial computing, the feeling of immersion and the extension of your body into the computer system, is not at all relatable in VR. This is different. I don't know if it's good, but it's different. Personally, I like it.
Are you able to elaborate on any demos you may have had and the context thereof?
So the demo program, this is actually the challenge program, and the idea was, with the first piece was to learn about Apple Vision Pro. The second piece was to come up with a app idea. So I worked with some of the folks at Apple to flesh out an app idea that I've got. I've got a great design. I really have to work on my Xcode.
That's the heavy lift there, actually building it. Yeah.
Yes, and I think I realized about 10 years ago, I'm not an app coder, but after doing this challenge, I might be an app developer.
Very cool.
Things, yeah.
So that will be one of your future momentous projects that we hope to learn more about someday. Ged, as someone who, as far as I know, is decidedly not a developer or a coder, feel free to correct me on that.
Correct.
From what you've seen in either the popular media or any tech media that you happen to be following, and some of these other issues we've just brought up, any general impressions to share on the Apple Vision Pro before we move on?
It absolutely scares the shit out of me. The entire idea absolutely scares the shit out of me. I remember, like, being a big movie guy, I remember watching Ready Player One, and for the first 10 minutes, I thought that this would be the coolest thing in the entire world. And then halfway through the movie, I went, this is 10 times scarier than it is cool. And I reached out to a friend of mine who is down in California living, and he's that guy that just, of course, has to have it, and he has the finances to back that up. So him and I had quite the extensive text conversation the other day with him in LA, and yeah, it has the potential to change the way that we interact with the world, not only from a data perspective, but even from a media perspective, I mean, something like this renders a home theater useless. I mean, what you can put into your ears now and what they can deliver visually changes the way that we interact with media. It scares the crap out of me, but I'm also so intrigued. I'm okay being a little Icarus and flying a little close to the sun on it.
So I've got a question there. When you say it renders a theater irrelevant, it kind of presents the question of what is a theater? Is the theater the shared sound and picture experience? Because if you have all of these headsets that were sung together, is it the community experience, like people coming together? Or is it just the audiovisual quality? I'm asking this question because I think you raised a really great point.
That's a good question. So my initial perspective on it was from strictly the audio video perspective. Like, I look at the amount of money that I have invested into my theater room downstairs, and from an AV perspective, there is nothing I could do that would touch what these are going to be able to do in the next 10 minutes in terms of technology. And when it comes to the community, that is something I don't think we'll have to worry about nearly as much, because there's nothing better than sitting with my friends or, hanging out with you when you're in town and being able to share that time together. Now, you'll be able to do that, of course, in the, in the augmented reality world and in the virtual reality world. Like, there will be virtual theaters that we'll be able to hang out in, but I don't think anything will really quite replicate that. So my stance was based on the audio visual.
It does allow people to enjoy a home theater experience, even if that might approach something like what you have, Ged, even if they don't have the space or the full-on surround sound system, or the you basically something like the Apple Vision Pro affords you virtually like a 100-inch screen if you and then of course there's the built-in speakers, but if you have you can use other Bluetooth headphones there too for a fantastic experience. If you don't have a problem with that thing being on your face for a couple of hours. And apparently the head strap, like there's the back strap, the solo loop, I think it's called, is maybe not quite as comfortable for extended periods, but some people find the one that that goes over the top of the head enables a lot more extended sessions.
So can I tell you something that's really neat? A 3D printer that I follow on YouTube printed an adapter to use a second solo strap as the head strap, which is the most ridiculous thing on the planet. I mean, I'm sure it's comfortable, but I'm like, this is why I didn't buy the ski goggles. I'm waiting for V2. I'm waiting for version 2.
I just love how you referred to a person as a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, technically people are 3D printers. They're rapid replication machines.
About twice a day for me, morning and night.
Well, here's the thing, like each human being has instructions to create a new human being, and half the population roughly can do that. It's RepRap.
Yeah. My 3D printing is not quite so creative.
Yeah. Mine is non-existent.
Yeah, well, no, mine usually ends up in the sewer. Anyway, so
thankfully you don't have any layered adhesion problems.
Exactly. All right, let's move on. Just to one last thing about what Ged had mentioned about the communal experience. That is one thing that is currently missing from the current version of Vision OS, is the ability to watch something with a friend in the same environment, like be able to turn to your side and look at someone, whether they're in the same room as you wearing a headset, so they can enjoy the gigantic screen as well, or they could be on the other side of the planet. That shared space does not currently exist, although it might in the future. Gray, from your experience with other platforms such as a Meta Quest, is that something that exists is there a kind of a communal viewing thing where you have your folks beside you while watching?
Yes, very much. And so it's kind of the equivalent of SharePlay, which I've used all of never. Like I've tried to use SharePlay. It never really kind of works. The one on Meta Quest also is equally terrible. I don't know. Again, the let's hang out and watch TV together across the world never really has kind of presented any sort of interest to me, and never has delivered. I'm sure there are folks out there that are doing it, but I'm like, yeah, you missed.
And I could see this as something that as a nice to have as opposed to a need to have for launch. There's a whole bunch of things that are unfinished. Like you can't reorganize the icons on the home view. So just like you couldn't reorganize the icons on the main screen of the iPhone when it launched. Like there's a bunch of stuff that's gonna be like, yeah, we'll get to that. So maybe the share play kind of thing will be
Oh,
for
it absolutely will.
version 2.0 or something.
It absolutely will.
Yeah.
It'll be a point release for sure.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where, and this is the thing that going back to the iPhone, I don't know about you guys. I am terrible about organizing my icons on my iPhone. That's why I just use what's the search called? I want to say Sherlock, but
Yeah, Spotlight.
Spotlight.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know where any of my icons
Same.
are because what a mess. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah, I used to file things in folders super neatly, and then when I got my iPhone 14 Pro, I'm like, and I usually blank slate with apps, so I don't have all the cruft from the past. I just have like a couple of pages of essentials, and everything else just I hide from the home screen and then just use the search as long as I can remember what the apps are called. That's what's key. All right, let's move on to another bit of the present slash future, and that is Stellantis will finally adopt Tesla-style fast charger plug. So NACS, the North American Charging Standard, has been rebadged J3400 just to show you that standards committees have no idea of how real people think. But Stellantis was the last holdout, so that Stellantis, like Fiat, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Alfa Romeo, etc. So fully, cementing the NACS or J3400 standard for DC charging across North America. So Tesla did it. I mean, they kind of made their standard open. A lot of people agreed it was kind of the slimmest, most elegant, quote, maybe best option.
It is,
and now it looks like it's despite what people might however people might currently feel about its current CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sometimes the best thing actually does win out. So, any thoughts on that, Ged?
I mean, I'm biased, obviously, but it really is a slick system. They don't do everything perfectly well, but man, do they charge a vehicle properly. It is sleek. It is small. The interface is easy to use. The chargers themselves you can log into, and they're brilliant to be able to kind of manipulate, whether it's at home. I think it's a great play. As the world goes more electric, there needs to be some things that you can move across well, and the infrastructure of how to get from point A to point B is probably the one you want to stand on.
So as part of this, Stellantis and 6 other automakers are planning to deploy 30,000 DC fast chargers across North America starting this year, which is great. So you're not simply relying on a Tesla alone to be providing that infrastructure, but with that common standard, the dream is you go to any charger with any car and it all should work. So there's going to be some adapters required for older vehicles, of course. And, we've got a 2016 Kia Soul EV, which we love. Great city car. We got a new battery under warranty that I talked about in the past. Got that swapped out in October. I think it was October. No, November. And so that we wouldn't be able to use this without some sort of a adapter. But again, that's an 8-year-old car at this point. So Stellantis branded battery EVs featuring the new port should arrive in showrooms in the second half of 2025 as part of the company's 2026 model year. In other EV news, Rivian will unveil the cheaper and more efficient R2 on March 7th. Now, we've been following Rivian for a couple of years now here on Momentous Live. Rivian started off with the there was the T1, which was the truck, and then the S1, which is the SUV, and now the R2 is going to be a compact SUV in the $40,000 to $60,000 range, US dollars, coming in 2026. So more details to follow. Gray, as someone who has been following Rivian quite closely over the last couple of years and pretty excited about some of the fresh approach to pickup trucks and SUVs. Any thoughts on this approach going down market, kind of like Tesla has, starting with the high end thing and working their way down into more affordable versions?
They just announced my car, which is great.
Say again?
I love that. They just announced my car.
Okay,
your car. This is the one that I'm buying. This is the one that I'm buying. And if they do not call the blue and white paint scheme D2, they have screwed it all up.
Do you mind explaining that for our moms?
So moms, dads, older folks out there who remember 1977, that's R2-D2 from Star Wars. Our glorious little astromech droid, clad in blue and white.
Nothing to do with Mighty Ducks, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Emilio Estevez might have been inside that thing.
Emilio!
He's the best of us, better than the rest of us.
So this seems to be a pretty well established playbook in a number of industries. That starting at the high end. I mean, that's when the Tesla's innovation for EVs. Instead of making them like a chore to drive, like dorky little boxes like the original EV1 from GM that meant not a great fate and was the subject of a couple of documentaries. The first one, the Who Killed the Electric Car. Tesla went like, let's make something like sexy and hot so that people are going to want them. You get the early adopters to pay $100,000, whatever, and then we'll work on the economies of scale. We'll get the price down, and we'll Model S, Model X for the SUV, the full size SUV. Then we'll do the Model 3, the smaller sedan, and then the Model Y, the compact crossover, which we predicted was going to be a monster and has been a monster. And they're not done. Apparently, Tesla's working on a Model 2, I believe, which is going to be a little smaller and even cheaper. So Rivian is following this established playbook here. But it's nice to have other non-big three automaker EV startups going on aside from Tesla. Give people options. Competition is good. And we'll see. I mean, there's Lucid as well, but they're they're very, very expensive on that side of things. There. And we're seeing a few others come into the market. VinFast from Vietnam actually has a showroom at Park Royal Shopping Center here on the North Shore of Vancouver. It's over in West Vancouver there.
I haven't checked 15 minutes down the road too.
Yeah, really? Yeah. So have you checked them out at all?
So a couple of the guys from the Mini World at head office actually went to VinFast. So I've actually been planning to reach out to them and maybe spend a bit of time. So if we reschedule one of these, maybe I'll shoot something or we'll do something from one. Because there's been a couple guys over there.
And then of course, like the largest by volume EV automaker in China, I believe it's called BYD. And again, they started with an opposite approach. They started at the bottom and they're moving their way up. So depending on what happens with trade restrictions and tariffs and stuff like that, if they ever come to North America, that could be a real game changer. And then it's game on. But we'll see if the North American governments will abide that. So Rivian R2 gray. We'll see if get you on the pre-order list there. And you got a couple years to save up. 2026, but this could be the thing that launches Rivian to the next level.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to our main story. Amazon. I remember when Amazon was just a little startup bookseller in the mid 90s online. Jeff Bezos trying to find something that was a commodity that could be easily cataloged and shipped around the world, especially in the United States, using media postage rates, which were very cheap. And then, of course, they grew to other similar types of media, DVDs and CDs and the like. And then, of course, they eventually became the everything store. They added Prime shipping, free 2-day shipping for people who wanted to pay a membership every year. Instead, membership has about doubled in price over the last 10 years or so since it was introduced. Prime Video has been a big part of that to entice people to remain members of Prime Video. We're going to talk about Prime Video in just a couple of moments. But first, there's a new lawsuit alleging that Amazon has been hiding cheaper items with faster delivery and that hundreds of millions of Amazon's US customers have overpaid, according to this class action lawsuit. So this relates specifically to something called the Amazon Buy Box, which appears on an items page and prompts shoppers to buy now or add to cart. It alleges that the algorithm that shows you the quote unquote best deal, that said algorithm is actually biased, and that nearly 98% of Amazon sales are featured in the buy box because customers allegedly reasonably believe that featured items offer the best deal on the platform. But this isn't always the case. So the allegation is that Amazon is preferencing its own products or things that it makes the most profit on. And because they control the store so tightly, that includes their merchants, people who are using different Amazon services like FBA, fulfilled by Amazon and whatnot, that puts the other merchants at a competitive disadvantage, even when they may be more competitive from a cost perspective. So
I don't know if you want me to weigh in on this one.
I do. That's why we have you, Ged. You have thoughts?
I'm going to keep this as polite as I possibly can. The fact that there is a potential class action lawsuit because the general public is so stupid that they're
Oh,
not
here we go.
willing to do 4 minutes of work to find a cheaper price is part of the reason why I'm surprised most of them don't choke on their toothbrush in the morning or sustain brain damage by pushing a Q-tip in too hard. It's an online platform that generates revenue. I've spent time in the Amazon space. Of course they preference their own product. Like, what are people thinking? Oh, well, I was under the impression it was the best deal. Well, grow a pair. Figure it out. The loss of human individual accountability in this is just literally makes me want to smash my head against the drywall. Those are my 2 cents on this. That is all.
I expect that Gray, as someone who has a lot more compassion for his fellow human being, might have a slightly different take, especially as regards the monopolistic, quasi-monopolistic practices of big tech nowadays. Gray, any counterpoints to offer?
Nope.
Like Gray and I have literally worked in this space together on a mutual client, battling, selling our soul, removing our own blood basically to get into that buy box. And you think it's so that the end user could get the best deal? Give your a tug.
So here's the thing. I bought some 3D printed filaments on the weekend, and I looked at the buy box, and then I looked at the box beside it and saw a lower price with faster shipping. And you know what I did? I bought the one with lower price with faster shipping because I have eyes and deductive reasoning.
You took the moment to not click the buy box?
So here's
you are an exceptional human being.
We can actually equate this back to brick and mortar retail. End caps are the buy box of the retail store. They do not have the best deals.
But it pays the vendor
the
most
featured
amount of money,
items.
Baby.
Yes. And so anybody who thinks that the retailer owes them the work that they need to do to buy the best product maybe needs to grow a pair, a trio, a quad. I don't know what it is that they need to grow.
Yeah. You're going to need bigger shorts.
Friggin' sense.
Good Lord.
I'm disappointed. I'm not
the
angry.
Lack of accountability is just, it's so mind-numbing. They're the same people that when GPSs came out, it told them to turn left because the map was faulty and they drove into a river and then they wanted to sue Garmin. Like, figure it out. It's not that difficult.
The only thing that I'm angry with Garmin there is, did they get them before they had kids? Because you do that, you've done the world a service.
Fair. So clearly, Gray and I do not have opposing thoughts on this. I dare you to weigh in differently on this one.
Come on, bring it on.
Honestly, I don't care because, like you, I never trust no one. I generally, check the alternatives. I always click on the side. I sometimes look for used options as well because sometimes you don't need something that's brand new, depending on what it is, especially if it's like a CD or something like that. Again, as we've discussed multiple times here, Momentous Live, especially when it comes time to popular shopping seasons, we encourage folks to check non-Amazon options as well, be it other big box retailers that have, the benefit of a large selection and deep inventory, or local establishments, mom and pop shops and whatnot, that sometimes may be more competitive than you expect. And sometimes you can get stuff quicker because they're just down the road. And not everything is 1 day or 2 day shipping from Amazon, especially if it's a specialty item. So yeah, but at the same time, as someone who is aware of dark patterns in web design, user interface design and whatnot, things are often presented in a way to give people the impression that something might be the best deal. Similar how it's kind of like the inverse of how it's really, really hard to unsubscribe from certain services. Whether it's a dozen clicks to cancel an Amazon account, for example. There's a lot of things that these online retailers and other types of e-commerce platforms do that to guide your behaviors in certain ways. So I'm generally not a huge fan of class action lawsuits. So I think it's up to the jury to determine if, and again, usually juries are filled with normal people. So that's the thing, is like us as 3 reasonably tech savvy folks, we may know to kind of look around at other options, but you would be surprised like how many people there are that are not in tech all day, every day, and don't see the rest of the interface. Their eye goes to where it's being designed to get you to go. So we're all being controlled in a way, and you have to like really resist because it's amazing. Like you're talking through like a friend or family member about doing something on their on their computer or their mobile device, and you're like, just read the screen, look at the options in front of you, and people are blind to these things. So I think having a little bit of empathy to maybe non-technical folks might be in order. But as far as a class action lawsuit goes, like, I mean, the only people that end up getting rich out of these things are the lawyers, and that's why we chose the wrong career. Okay. Are we on to something that moving on to something that you may have a little less sympathy for Amazon on? You guys ready for this one?
Okay, I'm ready.
Amazon, so a couple of weeks ago, Amazon Prime Video, as we learned last fall, started serving ads on January 29th, unless you paid extra. As an extra $2.99. Now, the surprise is it was $2.99 US, but also $2.99 Canadian. So they didn't go for the jugular for us Canadian folks here. And I can confirm we've watched a couple of things on Prime Video, and what do you know? About a minute of ads at the beginning and end, and maybe 15 seconds of ad in the middle so far. And so you've been paying for Prime Video this whole time. Now, without ads, now unless you pay them an extra $3 a month, you're gonna have ads. So that's not exactly a bait and switch. And I know that none of these streaming services are making money. And I know that advertising is still the most powerful model. That's why Netflix got rid of its bottom tier of non-advertising supported. It was like the 480p single stream tier or whatever it was. And they've got a couple of ad-supported tiers on Netflix. So I get what's happening here with Prime Video, but the fact that now we've got to, it's kind of, a friend of the show, Tom Merritt, on DTNS, Daily Tech News Show, described it as shrinkflation for streaming services. So it's like, but it's actually, it's not quite, it's kind of the same. It's like you're paying the same, but you're getting less. So now if you want to get rid of those ads, you got to pay an extra $3 a month. Ged, you've got to have a problem with this, no?
Well, so we get our Amazon Prime through having a Prime subscription for Amazon.
Yep.
So we don't pay any extra to have Prime TV.
Correct.
So if they want to chuck a couple ads in, it was inevitable. I'm sorry. Now, if I was paying,
but they've been cranking the price on Prime for years as it is.
Right,
it started off at $70, and now it's like what, $120 or something here in Canada.
Yeah, but it's still good value for those that order a bunch of stuff on Amazon. So even though it's gone up, so is everything else. I mean, jumping up and down and throwing my fists around doesn't change the outcome. Now, I will say that there will be a diminishing point where I will have a problem with it. So I saw an ad at the beginning of something the other day, and then I saw an ad at the end of it. We were watching Reacher. Oh, what a show. And I was cool with it. If we get to the point where they're running commercials every
like
YouTube 8 minutes,
like YouTube got so heavy with their ad load, I finally broke down and got YouTube Premium after like Grade been singing his praises for years. Yeah, it finally broke me. There were so many ads on YouTube. Yeah. But so
it will get to that point, but it's not there yet. It's like if it's one at the beginning, one at the end, whatever. At the beginning, you're barely tuned in anyway emotionally, and then at the end, you're like, whatever.
But they're throwing them in the middle now, and that was a half-hour show we watched. We've been watching season 3 of Upload,
and that's my fear. That's my fear is it's going to get to the point where it's like cable TV. And then if we have this conversation again in 12 months, you might see a very different reaction.
Gray, any thoughts before we get to the next half of this little debacle?
I paid the money. No,
you did already? Wow, right out of the gate.
I did. Oh yeah, no, I'm not doing ads. F that noise. $36 a year for no. Now here's the thing: there are a number of Doctor Who episodes that do not have actual audio tracks right now. They have the Italian, they have the French, but a bunch of these episodes are static. I am going to complain and get my $36 back because you didn't provide the service that I asked for, Amazon. But otherwise, $36 is fine.
We'll see how that goes for you. So the other wrinkle to this story is that without telling people, subscribers who haven't been paying the extra $3 a month, Prime Video has cut Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos support
now we have a problem
from the current tier. So unless you're paying extra, okay, you're getting ads, and now you don't get Dolby Vision or Dolby Atmos, both of which are supported by a number of streaming boxes, such as the Apple TV. They didn't even tell folks. It just kind of went away. Now, to be fair, they hadn't always supported it. They'd gotten rid of it after a few years, and then they were supporting HDR10 Plus and Dolby Digital 5.1. They brought back support with I believe it was Rings of Power. And so people are getting used to, all right, Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos again for some of our, our favorite shows and movies. And now, yoink, they giveth and they taketh away. So now if you want Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos Ged, you got to pay the extra $3 a month. You get rid of the ads, and that's how you get the extra audio video features.
And that's where they'll get me. Right there. I mean, the second I go to watch the second season of The Ring of Power and it's not in Dolby Vision, that's going to be a very quick transaction. Because now it's affecting the quality of what I'm watching. Because there is depending on the audio setup you have, and I'm not going to get into it, and Gray's probably kind of chuckling and smirking at this point, like processors, receivers, and stuff can do a really good job of interpreting surround sound. So even if it gets rid of Dolby Atmos, if you have a good setup, it'll sort that out and it'll do a fantastic job. But there's nothing a receiver can do to make up for the fact that you've lost HDR content. And the second you take away HDR content to new content, that's when my credit card goes down and the money gets spent because it's affecting something I can't change.
So much for that talk about growing a pair. We're not going to stand up to the man. We're just going to give him the money.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine watching The Ring of Power in SDR. Like I'd get some of that warm yogurt and just spend the night, reflecting on all my life's decisions.
Yeah, I don't think the Ring of Power warm yogurt is on Amazon. I think it's on Cinemax.
That's season 3, the real fire of Mount Doom. If you know what I'm saying?
Prime Video after dark.
Yeah.
Gray, any thoughts on having to pay extra for the do you have anything that can you can enjoy Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos?
Oh, yes.
With? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I've got a Tickle 75. I think it's pronounced Tickle. Right?
The TCL, yes.
The TCL, yeah, the Tickle. Mm-hmm. The Tickle. And it does a lovely job of Dolby Vision. Paying for the ads to go away is fine. Mm-hmm. Removing Dolby Vision is just dumb. It's mean. It's stupid. In bird culture, we regard this as a dick move. This is just like some simpleton in marketing was like, you know what we're gonna do? It's gonna be ads free and Dolby Vision. No, it's just the ads. You absolute morons. Stop it.
And I think they would probably justify that. And they say, okay, well, this is the way that we're not just raising the price for everyone. If this is something that maybe they've got some analytics, only X percentage of people are using this anyway, and they're probably the affluent, higher end people like present company, that this is the way to go to keep the prices down for the majority of folks. They'll put up with the ads, they'll put up with the no Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos. And if you really want to get rid of ads and the swishy audio video, enhanced quality, you can pay the $3 a month.
Absolutely. But here's the thing. They're still pushing TVs with Dolby Vision, right? They still think it's an important feature. So even if people aren't using it right now, to take it away is just like, what is wrong with you?
Hold on. I have a clarifying question. Did they take away Dolby Vision or did they take away HDR in general?
No, they gave HDR10 is still part of it.
So HDR is available. So if something was in Dolby Vision,
HDR10 Plus.
Still play in HDR10 Plus.
Yeah.
You know what? Then let the ads run.
Yeah. So here's the thing: is this a licensing play? Like, is this coming down from the folks at Dolby that want a couple extra bucks? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah, but Dolby Digital 5.1 is kind of hot garbage compared to Dolby Atmos, so that's on the audio side.
Can we just take a second here? Dolby Surround was amazing. Dolby Digital 5.1 was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Dolby, they're amazing. So calling it hot garbage, like, I hear you, but good God, it's
compared to
sound.
Compared to Dolby HD Master Audio or DTS Master Audio and Dolby True HD. When you compare, I watched several years ago Sunshine on Blu-ray with Dolby Digital, and then I switched the settings to Dolby True HD, and Atmos is even better than True HD. And it's like, okay, I get it now. And so.
Well, I don't want to be nitpicky here, but Dolby Atmos is actually a derivative of of true HD, just
Well, yeah,
in
but
the
it's
high
one
standard format.
It's,
Yeah.
and you've got
calculus
more. You've got these extra access of power.
Yeah.
So-
But no, so as long as you're going to keep HDR, that's fine.
Mhm.
But I think Dolby Vision from a hardware perspective, and Gray, you can probably echo this one. In the next 5 years, everything will be Dolby Vision. So we're all just gonna have to figure it out. But right now, there's still HDR10 products out there, and a ton of them, especially in the projector space. Dolby Vision is a very minute, like it's less than 2% of the projector space right now.
You know where they can't take away our Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos is
Physical
on our
media.
4K Blu-rays, physical media.
And I'm an idiot that still buys it.
You're not alone.
That's a disc move. That is a disc move.
Oh,
That was a great
I
disc
see
move.
what you did there.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Oh, accidentally triggering Siri somehow. Speaking of TV, quote unquote TV watching, there's a recent article in CNET claiming how this authors, many of their friends don't own TVs, but that could change soon. Gen Z or Gen Z wants TVs to function more like their phones. How can TV makers innovate to compete for young consumers' attention? And some of us olds may be flabbergasted to learn like how many folks are watching like not just TV shows, but full-on feature films on their iPads, or too much to David Lynch's chagrin, on their phones. So kind of denying the full-on cinematic experience. And there's this article talks about how the one movie studio actually chopped up a movie to play on TikTok. Oh, what movie was it now? We're gonna get this. Gonna pull this up. Oh yeah, Mean Girls, the new version, the musical version. No, I guess maybe it's the original. Yeah, Mean Girls broken up into 23 separate videos. That sounds like hell to me. I'm sorry. I'm not a fan of short form video, and taking a piece of cinema and chopping it up like that's the kind of thing that would have Martin Scorsese rolling in his soon-to-be grave.
Was it widescreen, or did they actually like pan and scan to 9:16?
Oh my god! I don't even want to think about it. I'm getting hives. So
because that's a war crime right there. Like.
So yeah, apparently in 2023, 68% of consumers aged 18 to 26 owned a TV versus 87% of total US adults. Now, this could be a function of, adulting and whatnot. You finally get, a bit more space to yourself and eventually get a TV. But the habits that people are learning on their smartphones, whether it's through interactivity or, and the like, share play, for example, those kinds of things. So it'll be interesting to see how TV manufacturers respond to the wants of people who are raised on consuming media on mobile devices. Anyhow, now, do you guys, Greg, do you ever watch TV shows or movies on a mobile device? I mean, you've got a big TV, so what's your situation?
Yeah, so like YouTube is my jam, and I watch a lot of TV on YouTube because of all the late night shows, which half the time I don't even watch the screen. You don't need to see Stephen Colbert or even the visual jokes to know what the visual jokes are being made, because a lot of them are on the nose, right? So yeah, would I watch like Monarch on my phone? No. Maybe if I have to like take a minute to go to the bathroom and I want to like pick it up in between, but that seems ultimately super Gen Z, and I'm still a Zennial, so not in this household. Nah, it's
especially when you have a 75-inch to watch it on. Like, come on.
The tickle is just like it's the ultimate weapon. So yeah, no, I love my iPad. It's not TV.
How about you, again? You've got your whole swishy home theater setup, but I mean, are you always?
It's a small 30.
Say again.
It's a small 130 inches. Literally.
So, but do you ever watch things on mobile devices that you kind of then feel guilty about afterwards for not watching on your big time setup?
So I guess the first question, I actually don't watch movies. I don't watch stuff in the theater room often. I'm probably only down there on the weekends. We have like a 60-inch TV with a Sonos soundbar, an old generation that we watch kind of the majority of the TV on. I do not watch shows on a mobile device unless I'm on a plane. But I'm curious, and I'd love to see the stats on this, because as we know, the age demographic you're referring to, exponentially more of them still live at home. So I think you're also looking at a gross percentage more of people that are still living in the family home that just may not buy a TV to put into their room. So they might still live at home and mom and dad have a TV, but they don't want to go up because they're 26 years old and they're still living at home. So they end up watching it on their mobile device.
Mhm.
Sorry, I know that kind of takes it in a slightly different direction,
No.
but that's such a reality now for people, in Canada, people in obviously BC, definitely people in Ontario. There's so many more people that have not moved out that there's no need for them to buy a TV. So you watch it on your phone out of necessity.
So in a sample size of 6 that immediately come to mind of people in our family and close friends that have teens and young adults in their early to mid 20s still living at home, of those 6, 4 of them have TVs in their bedrooms and 2 of them do not. So that's, again, a small sample size, but that might reflect in some respects.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely an argument to be made that it's becoming habitual, which I mean, it breaks my heart. I can't imagine sitting here looking at my phone watching a show. Like I just can't. But I realize that I am old, so I'm probably not the best guy to ask that.
Have you ever seen that David Lynch video? It came out like 10 years ago when he's talking about watching movies on an iPhone. We'll
No, I haven't actually.
I'll send it over to you and we'll include it in the show notes. It's a must watch. I can't even talk. Must watch. Yeah.
And Gray, do you have any thoughts on
it? He can't hear us apparently.
Yeah, we lost audio, so now we're just going to ask Gray's opinion, then move on and say things
we'll see if he's able to get back on. Unfortunately, Gray's been battling tech demons for a few weeks here. Yeah. Let's move on to our next story. Oh, we really want Gray for these. All right, I'm going to talk slowly and just do a little overview of these next few stories, and we'll keep it tight because I've actually I'm supposed to have a hard out at 8, but
okay, let's try and remember it's almost 11 here. So
So okay, what about Grown Up Hair? Anyhow, so a few stories we have. Star Trek's Section 31 TV series starring Michelle Yeoh, reprising her character Philippa Georgiou from Discovery, has officially entered production. So, and apparently they've got some other cast members ready to go, including Omari Hardwick, Casey Roll, Sam Richardson, Sven Rigrock, Robert Kaczynski, Humberly Gonzalez, and James Hiroyuki Liao. I have to confess, I'm not familiar with any of those names. But then again, I wasn't familiar with very many of the names for a lot of the recent Star Trek series, with the exception of a couple. And I mean, we've had mixed results from them, to be sure. So that's one story. Another, this was a Gray story. There's been a couple trailers for Ghostbusters Frozen Empire.
So pumped.
Yeah. Starring Paul Rudd and Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things, Carrie Coon, and others. So that was, that's another story. I think we might agree that the last Ghostbusters movie wasn't too shabby. A lot of people seem to prefer it to the one before that, the reboot with the all-female cast, which had a number of controversies around it we're not going to get into today.
I think that just quickly in this, I think that they nailed a reboot with the last Ghostbuster. I thought it was a 9.5 out of 10 in my mind. I thought they did a great job with it.
Bringing back some of the original cast, I think helped as well.
It was a great story. They killed it.
Yeah, to make the olds happy. In other news, Henry Cavill is going to be starring in the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, directed by Guy Ritchie. And if you are a fan of Guy Ritchie and or Henry Cavill, this looks like it might be interesting to you. Nothing beats Henry Cavill with a mustache and a beard here, a twirly mustache in this case.
I'm here for it.
And then the last of this quick little roundup, before we get into any further comments on this, is David Tennant sure sounds like he's done with Doctor Who for a long time. So apparently he came back for a special recently, and I think Gray had talked to us about that, and Will as well. The Giggle, which featuring the return of David Tennant, one of the most beloved doctors from the Doctor Who franchise. So that was as part of the 60th anniversary special. It's another 9 years away till the 70th anniversary special, and time will tell. But he claims to be done with Doctor Who, at least for another 9 years. Again, with this and the Star Trek story, we're hoping for Gray's input on those. But
I'm not a Doctor Who guy, unfortunately.
How about Star Trek, Ged? Back to our Section 31. What have you? So Section 31.
I enjoyed Discovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I mean, I did not grow up on Star Trek at all.
Mm-hmm.
I was a Star Wars guy. But the movies starring Chris Pine changed that for me. I didn't go back. I wasn't excited enough to go back and watch the old ones, but I loved the Chris Pine ones and really, really enjoyed Discovery. So I like where they're going with it. I think they're doing a solid job with it. I mean, I just hope they just keep it going.
So Section 31 is, as alluded to in Discovery, and I think maybe in Strange New Worlds as well, is kind of about the shadowy or security organization that apparently exists within Starfleet and is maybe up to some shenanigans. And one of the criticisms is that, well, this doesn't feel very Star Trek. You know, the Federation and Starfleet and all this is supposed to be noble. And what is this? What are these dark forces that Section 31 might represent? You know, think of it like the CIA or something like that, which the ends justify the means kind of organization. So are you up for some dark Trek, as the case may be?
Yeah, and in the new movies, they alluded to that happening a little bit. So I like it. I like the fact that they're muddying the waters a little bit. I think that they needed to, because part of the reason I was not a Star Trek guy is it just wasn't exciting enough for me. So
it was a little too pristine.
Like yeah. What about you?
I'm down. Like I'm not particularly precious about anything, be it Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever. Like, you know, diversity is our strength, as they say, and that can involve the tone and the types of stories that we explore. So, you know, let the market decide. I think with anything, people should give these things a chance. One of my pet peeves is when people prejudge movies, TV shows, whatnot, without actually watching them. And if you watch it and have fair criticisms, okay, cool. But if you're just going to like say, nope, you know, because X, Y, Z, it's like, okay, but we don't really have a conversation here then. So
no, I agree.
I'm down.
Yeah,
I mean, Discovery, I was hot and cold on Discovery because I think it started strong. One of my problems with it is just there were certain points where it's like, okay, enough with the feelings already. We've got like the Earth to save, and we're having little cry sessions in the other room. Like there were some points where it was just like a little ridiculous for me.
That's fair. Yeah, I'll give you that.
But Strange New Worlds, I really enjoyed. I'm still enjoying Lower Decks. Again, it kind of goes up and down.
Yeah.
The last season of Lower Decks has been pretty strong, and I don't watch a ton of animated shows, but there's a lot of homages to other Trek in there. All right, so it looks like we're probably not going to get Gray back. So let's move on to our momentous picks, so we can see if we can stick the landing here. So what's your momentous pick of the week this week, Ged?
Today, mine is Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. I apologize if you guys have talked about this.
We have not so much
already,
aside from the trailers.
I have been following the monster universe since Godzilla 2014, since that first movie landed.
Excellent.
I have not seen Godzilla -1, but I do understand that it does tie into it.
Not really.
No, okay.
No,
I thought that it was part of that universe.
No,
Wonderful.
it's a Toho. So and we talked about Godzilla -1. I love that. But so what happened is that Toho, the original company that responsible for the monster, the Japanese monster universe, including Godzilla, they made a deal with Legendary and Universal to not do any Godzilla movies for 8 years, while Legendary and Universal were bootstrapping the monster universe that we've come to know and love. So Godzilla King of the Monsters, Kong Skull Island, and Godzilla versus Kong.
Loved it.
Again, they've varied a little bit, but they've generally been pretty strong, especially the first Godzilla movie. I really enjoyed. Yeah.
And Godzilla King of Monsters, I loved.
Yeah.
The only one was Godzilla versus Kong was a little cheesy, but it's Godzilla versus Kong. It's supposed to be cheesy.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what we're here for. So yeah, I mean, I'm only 2 episodes in. I'm trying to savor this one because I know if I don't, I'm going to sit down and watch the whole thing in one sitting.
It actually might benefit from binging because
maybe.
I'd be curious to know your thoughts once you're done it, because I have some specific thoughts. We haven't really gotten into it too much on the show here, aside from when the trailers came out. I love that Apple TV's Plus has been leaning into the genre stuff, including sci-fi and stuff like this. But
I mean, they just spent all the money on this.
Yeah,
like it's
the
production is
TV,
insane. Yeah, I've Yeah, I love it so far.
And learning about the backstory behind Monarch. One of the criticisms that I saw from people is like, oh, we need more monsters. It's like, well, yeah, it's this legacy of monsters. This is about Monarch. It's not so much about the monsters.
Yeah.
The monsters do appear here and there, but
Yeah.
I think people need to manage their expectations a little bit. Now, the question is, what is the strength of the human characters involved in Monarch, either officially or unofficially, as far as the story goes? That's a whole other discussion. So again, we can pick up that discussion once you are finished, because I definitely have some thoughts. But I'm glad you're enjoying it so far.
I'm super pumped.
Yeah, and do check out Godzilla -1,
I
which
will.
is after this 8-year pause from Toho in Japan. That is part of it's not part of the Universal Legendary Monster Universe. It's a separate thing, but it shares kind of the spirit of Monarch Legacy Monsters because it's going back in time. Which is kind of cool. And Monarch Legacy Monsters, again, jumping back and forth between 1955 and 2015 is kind of cool. So Godzilla -1 kind of has some of the 1955 vibes. It's sort of an origin story. But I think if you haven't seen it yet, again, I highly recommend it.
I will for sure.
It'll
probably be something I'll watch at home.
It might be, because I don't think it's in the theaters anymore. I saw it in IMAX, which was wild. Definitely see it in your home theater. Don't watch it on a phone or in a plane.
I will watch it. I will watch it on.
It's got stakes. Sure. It's got heart. Loved Godzilla -1, but Monarch Legacy Monsters, an interesting offering from Apple TV Plus. So we'll pick up that conversation maybe offline later.
What about yours? I'm excited for yours and your take on this.
Well, it's interesting. Like my pick of the week, my momentous pick of the week is Ferrari, starring Penelope Cruz and Adam Driver. Adam Driver as the titular character. Now, one thing that's important to know, and a friend of mine warned me, a friend of mine who's a real car guy, he's like, he thought it was mediocre. He said, this is not a car movie, it's a biopic. I'm like, okay, I get it. So I was prepared for that. You know, unlike Ford v Ferrari, which I loved and saw twice in the theater, this is a very different. You know, it's more about Enzo Ferrari. You know, the character. You know, the larger than life personality. And I thought Adam Driver did a reasonable job. Penelope Cruz was off the charts.
Okay.
In her portrayal of his long suffering wife. There's been some criticism about the portrayal of his the casting of his mistress, which Shailene Woodley, who people might know from there's some the post-apocalyptic young adult fiction movies that were done. I don't even remember their names. It wasn't the Hunger Games, but it was the other one.
Oh, the 100.
Oh no, not the other one. The other series wasn't the Maze Runner. There's some other thing. Anyway. So I get that she was fine, but like Adam Driver, great, and like Penelope Cruz, like I said, was amazing. I quite enjoyed it. Has one of the most shocking crash scenes I've ever seen in a movie. Okay. And have you seen it yourself yet?
No, it is on my list. Because I would consider myself an excitable car fan. So I also love Ford v Ferrari.
Yeah. So again, not as much car stuff as Ford v Ferrari. There's some for sure, but it's more about the people themselves. The reason why I was like in the bag for this from the start is it's directed by Michael Mann, and I'll watch basically anything Michael Mann does. I just rewatched Heat about a month ago with a couple of buddies, which holds up. And I loved Collateral, the original Miami Vice series, of course, and Benjamin. Oh no, he didn't do Benjamin Button. That was what's his face? That was David Fincher. But Michael Mann's done a ton of interesting stuff. So I am down. And who knows how much longer we're going to have him? Like a lot of these directors they're no spring chickens anymore. Him, Ridley Scott, and Scorsese, and anyway. So Ferrari is my momentous pick of the week. So let's get to our momentous projects and a little bit of a.
I don't know if this is called a project.
It's called your life now. It's your entire personality. And what is
this? Is it. So Double Cross is a upscale golf simulator I've been working on since November of 2022. We were originally supposed to get our keys September 1st and be open for basically November. We still do not have our keys yet. So we've been about 6 months of delays. It is easily the hardest thing I've ever done in my entire life. I now understand why people say when it comes to being an entrepreneur that not everybody could do it. It is not glorified. It is not wonderful. But we are very fortunate that there's an image that's literally the first ever publicly viewed interior image. That is the outdoors of it. Yep. So that's the inside. So it's a multi-level facility.
Very cool.
5 simulator bays. The best technology in the world by a company called Foresight. They have about 75% of the PGA Tour uses it at each week's event. Our focus is on hyper local. So like our beer partners, Guelph, we have our own roasted coffee. So if you're a coffee fan, maybe I'll ship some across the country so you can try it out. It's so good. Everything is about supporting the people around us. That is my number 2/business partner. His name's Matt Tyndale. He's coming from like the number 10 ranked course in the country called Westmount or Ontario. He'll be kind of overseeing all the teaching. Stacy, my lovely wife, is going to help make sure everything is organized in the back end. Just a massive commitment to local, and we're super excited. The branding part of it has been amazing. We started doing some merch and hoodies a few months ago, hoping to maybe sell like half the inventory by the time we got in. We've moved through 2 full orders and already have to reorder.
Wow.
So the community around us has really embraced us and wrapped our arms around us. And, I've been able to kind of connect with our mayor a lot. And it's been the largest undertaking of my entire life. But it's something that will more than likely define my legacy at this point. So
when do you expect to get the keys and eventually open?
We are targeting very early April to be able to open the doors.
Nice.
Yeah.
And people can find out more at dblcrs.ca. So
or check us out on Insta at dblcrs.
Excellent. All right. I got to make it. Haven't been to Ontario in a long, long time, but
you need to come visit. Got a place to stay.
Okay. Yeah. As long as there's like a 100+ inch screen to watch.
You have you will have your own floor, a full theater room, and a beautiful washroom.
Okay. And maybe a little bit of golf simulation to boot.
Definitely some golf simulation. In fact, we can even run a Momentous from there.
Ooh. Deal. Our lovely and talented Tasia Custodi has yet another YouTube video for us this week. The best to-do list apps of 2024. And she recaps in 5 minutes what would probably take us the better part of half an hour here on Momentous Live. So go check her out at tasiacustodi.com or youtube.com/Tasia Custodi. And then speaking of Tasia Custodi, she and I have another little podcast called AI Named This Show. Mm-hmm. And that comes out every Friday afternoon. Our latest episode, Multimodal AI, where we talk about some recent news from Microsoft and its Copilot chatbot rebranding, or the pervasive branding across all its products, and Google's launch of Gemini and how they stack up in some regards. But Google is finally getting their AI branding under control and going with Gemini across the board now. So you can tune in every week at AINamedThisShow.com.
How do you like running another podcast?
Oh, with all my free time, it's great. Who needs sleep?
Right? Or priorities. You must be 100 air at this point from all your revenue and Momentous.
Almost.
A full 3-figure fella.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay.
So you can find out more about Momentous. Speaking of which, momentous.tv/team, momentous.tv/podcast, and momentous.tv/links for links to all our socials and the like. Ged, thank you so much for joining us once again. Always a blast having you on.
Thanks so much for having me.
We hope not just you, but everyone else who might be out there watching or listening, we hope that your week is truly momentous.